Okay, hello and welcome. I'm Jason Gumper, and we are here today to learn about year-end tips for brushing up on your digital marketing skills. And here to take us through the discussion is Dan Griffin, Microsoft Channel Sales Director at IBM. Dan is a returning speaker for us, and we're really glad to have him back today. As we get started, we do invite you to add your feedback and ask questions during the presentation. Dan will leave some time at the end. You can use the Q&A block that you see on the right side of the webcast session to ask your questions. So without further delay, please allow me to welcome Dan Griffin.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, everyone, for attending our webinar today on MS Dynamics World. We're going to spend some time today to talk about preparing you for the new year as a marketer, tips for brushing up on your digital marketing strategies. And what we really want to focus on is how do you help your organization achieve success? But we're going to spend the majority of our time talking about things that you as a marketer or you as a CRM user who will then be responsible for some level of marketing can increase your own brand awareness, your personal brand, and what you can do to become more valuable within your own brand and to your company. Okay. So this webinar is all about you. We want to make sure that you understand where you can go to find information, how you can specialize to become important to your organization, and the things that you can do to help with that specialization. Just a real quick background on me. I've spent the last couple of years with Silverpop, and we're an IBM company leading the Microsoft channel sales effort. Prior to that, I was a services lead for CRM system implementer. I spent 13 years implementing Microsoft Dynamics CRM at the executive level and also implementing marketing automation solutions within those CRM deployments. Oftentimes, they were multi-phases. And the reason I bring that up is we oftentimes think about marketing automation, marketing, sales, CRM, in various overlapping circles. And I'm a big proponent of putting those circles together, making the customer the main circle, and just leveraging your technology, always thinking about that customer in the middle. So all of the time that you spend focusing on your customer, whether you're in sales or marketing, specifically from these two aspects, we want to make sure that our message is clear. And the most successful relationship management projects, as we would deploy technology to these organizations from Fortune 100 down to small 5, 6, 7 person, at small, medium businesses, the most successful organizations at leveraging technology from a marketing perspective were those that executed on a roadmap, that didn't press their skills past where they were, but gave them an opportunity to grow their business by growing their technology. So that's how we're going to focus on this today. And we're going to start with a couple quotes, and this should set the groundwork for where marketing and marketing automation happens to be right now within just a general business community. I'm going to share a little bit of information from my time as a CRM implementer and where we see marketing automation in the dynamic CRM space. It is more mature than a general business. But just 5% of all businesses, not just B2B, even though that's what this quote is focused on, just 5% of businesses have a formal systemic marketing training program. So let's talk about what that means. Oftentimes, as I would walk into a client, we would talk to the sales team about a Salesforce automation deployment or talk about their sales process. They weren't necessarily hand in hand with the marketing team. It's incredibly important for all organizations to share with those customer-facing individuals what their marketing program is and train those users on the tools that you have in place or how to approach a particular topic that marketing is managing from a brand perspective so that we have a unified voice across all aspects of our business, whether you're a marketer that thinks and lives and breathes marketing activity, brand management, content management, automation, you breathe that every single day, to sales that quite often just expects marketing to provide them with awesome, incredibly qualified leads, but sales really can stand to benefit greatly from marketing automation. Therefore, knowing the marketing aspect, the marketing goals, what are our marketing pillars. I take this all the way down to the operation and support side. Anyone that can influence a customer, typically customer-facing, should really understand what your marketing training program is. And I'm not surprised that this is a 5% number, but I would encourage you to develop a program internally, not to overstate, but just to very simply 2 or 3 main marketing pillars within your organization and share how your main roles, sales, service, support, how they can also stay in line with your marketing pillars. And another thing that I find incredibly interesting, especially in this day and age of the ability to go online and find blogs and forums and communities around individual business aspects, especially around the marketing function. Right now, 75% of companies, their marketers are learning through trial and error. And as we become more digital in our marketing efforts day after day, the ability to provide analytics and learn from your mistakes and then become or take your personal brand and share those mistakes out to a broader marketers community can be incredibly helpful. It not only is helpful to your organization, and I'm not saying you're going out and telling your competitors, here's exactly what we're doing to win, but what we're sharing is how did we deploy technology? How are we leveraging at a very high level marketing automation or nurture programs or web intelligence or content management in a successful way? Because what you'll find is, especially in the B2B world, you're going to see your end customers really trying to understand your total presence. So I think it's really important that you really consider leveraging forums and blogs and communities and stop learning so much from trial and error. Certainly you're going to have trial and error based on unique and creative ideas, but we're not talking about the creative side of marketing specifically here. We're talking about leveraging tools, growing your business around your marketing tools, and specifically marketing automation. So when we think about how do we walk ourselves into our unique brand of me as a marketer, the first thing that you need to do within your organization is understand your chief marketing officer's agenda. And oftentimes at the highest level, that is loosely tied to the sales agenda. So I would encourage you, wherever you happen to sit within small, medium, large enterprise business, understand the CMO's agenda. And those are many things. As everyone knows from being a marketer, and just as we've continued to progress from a technology perspective, ROI, those marketing contributions to revenue, is more and more important. The CMO is accountable for every dollar being spent on marketing and tying that back or attributing that back to revenue, and that usually works its way through the sales cycle. So understanding how revenue attribution just works at a high level, how your marketing organization is judged, ROI will be a metric, that's important. Insights and analytics. This is also important, and we touched on analytics not just from an ROI perspective, but also from, Google Analytics is obviously a very popular method of measuring our website. But what I would challenge you to think about is, from an analytics perspective along the web analytics standpoint, who's visiting my site specifically? When are we getting the most traffic to specific pages? So challenge your organization to drive down deeper. The more that you can make decisions, or your CMO can make intelligent decisions on analytics facts versus feel, the better you're going to be positioned as a rock star in your organization, and ultimately the more value and revenue you're going to be able to provide. Revenue being important, value being not only your personal value, your personal success, but the value you're seeing as folks within your organization that you report to see what you're bringing to the table. The next couple pieces, mobile and customer engagement. I'm going to skip partnerships for a second. Mobile is important because that is where our entire universe is moving to. The ability for us to take our phone or a tablet or somewhere in between, whether it's a Galaxy Note or the new iPhone 6, the larger versions, the ability to market to someone where they are, have it be readable and actionable, and understand your direction. Most organizations haven't even started to move toward that. In fact, most small, medium businesses and mid-sized businesses don't even understand what mobile marketing can mean. And it's really just another avenue of touch, but you want to make sure that message is unified. Understanding your CMO's opinion on this is going to be very important. And customer engagement. This is really a broad topic, but how are, as we spoke at the beginning, how are we talking to our customers across all of our individual business groups? Again, marketing, sales, service, support, operations, just to take the basic 5. How does that work? What does our customer engagement model look like? And where are we trying to move that? Because each one of these pieces of technology can help move your customer engagement model. And then partnerships. How does your CMO view the other folks that you're working with? That could be an agency. It could be a company like Silverpop where you're buying technology for marketing automation. So those are the things to really understand. And when you think about your brand of one, think about how you can support and improve each one of these individual topics. And I promise we won't spend 5 minutes on each slide. We'll start to move here pretty quickly. All right, so typically when we think about digital marketing, there are 7 pillars that we like to really work with our clients on. What's your target market? Make sure you focus on your target market and stay within those bounds for the majority of your efforts. How healthy is your pipeline? And that is not just sales pipeline, but also the above the funnel pipeline where folks are doing things and you haven't even identified them as a buyer. And we're going to talk about pipeline at the end of our discussion today. Content. This comes down to how accurate is our content? What's the frequency of our content? Do we need to retire content? Again, someone needs to be paying attention to this. Engagement. This is the customer engagement model. And how does this apply across our entire business with marketing and typically sales, but marketing primarily in the lead seat on defining what this means? Technology and skills. We're going to focus most of our time today on the technology and skills aspects of digital marketing because we do want to focus on you as the user and you as the marketer and things you can do in a wildly expanding space. And then, of course, mobile we chatted about in social, which is, the number 2 largest buzz in terms of where do marketers spend their time and money as they're trying to break through into new areas. Mobile is one, social is another. And that just doesn't mean social from a Facebook, LinkedIn, external web facing. This is also starting to really get into social internal social messaging. So if you're a dynamic CRM user, we think about Yammer in that sense. And then how does that help you consistently spread your message of your customer engagement model or your brand or that marketing program that you want to teach everyone with? How do I leverage my internal social methods to do that? And don't feel like you're way behind if you don't have an internal social plan. Most organizations aren't yet moving towards the use of a social model internally. They're more focused on the external avenues of social with Twitter and Facebook potentially and those types of pieces. So let's focus on you for a little bit. Who's in charge of your digital marketing skills? Is it your boss? Is it your employer? Hopefully you're not answering yes to that, and I think this is kind of a legacy answer prior to really the ability for us to go online and quickly ramp our own skills through reading success stories and online training, certification, and reading. You typically would have looked at your boss or employer, what's my training plan and where do I need to go next? The reality is you're in charge of not just your digital marketing skills, but your skills in general, and you're responsible for improving your career trajectory as much as your boss is. Your boss is really more of a soapbox. Your boss is really more there to help support that. The folks that I've seen be the most successful are the ones that are able to help in their current role, but increase their skills incrementally to take on more. Tom Peters writes an incredible book. It's really The Brand You, and it changes the way that you think about your work, and it helps you prioritize what you're doing. And we're going to talk about reading. We're going to talk about the skills that you could possibly add. Tom Peters in this book gives you an incredible way to manage towards those skills and assess where you want to go to make you successful. Okay, so the next 3 or 4 slides are really going to paint that convoluted picture of what now is available from a technology perspective for the marketer. So in August of 2011, there were about 100 recognized companies that were players in the technology space for a marketer. And I don't expect you to be able to read this, but that's everything from mobile marketing to email marketing and landing page, SEO, integrated web meetings, creative tools, digital asset management. But you'll notice each one of these boxes, they really only have a handful to 7 or 8 on average logos in each box. So keep in mind, this is August 2011. Now we're going to fast forward to September 2012, and we've already more than tripled the documented pieces of technology. And again, these are those technology tools that are being used by businesses and are purchased by businesses, and certainly there are likely hundreds of very, very small, unique, services that have been used by folks. But again, now let's start to look at these boxes, and what you'll see, or now that they're circles, you'll see that for email marketing, for example, in 2011, in our email marketing box, folks that we really thought were playing in that business, that group was about 12 companies. Now we know there were more, but those that were making the impact. Email marketing is in the upper left-hand corner. There's like 18 folks in there, and this study actually included some criteria. But as a total, we're about 350 companies, and this was in a year and a month. So let's fast forward to January of this year. So marketing is now getting more complicated. Your job as a marketer and understanding the technologies becomes much more difficult, and understanding where to focus your skills adjustment is also difficult, which is why, Tom Peters does a good job in that book of helping you understand and define what you want to do to be successful, what you're interested in, and then you can sort of focus your skill set in a singular line towards those pieces. And but now we can see with email marketing in the upper left-hand corner, I can't even count the number of logos that are there. So the point of this is it's getting increasingly difficult for marketers to pick tools to use, to become experts in those tools, to become experts in the processes around those tools, and it's becoming even more difficult for a CMO or a director of marketing to make decisions around where to spend time, money, and resources from a marketing perspective. Because certainly, and if I look at this for, it's almost a 3-year cycle, that's a 9X. You probably haven't had a 9X addition of marketing resources to your marketing department. So things are becoming more complicated. So what we've chosen to do is really break that digital marketer's toolkit down into some things that make a lot of sense, areas of function that we know are either main use points for marketers or at least ancillary or related to what a marketer might do. So things like segmentation, leveraging CRM data. CRM, when I say CRM, oftentimes that gets misconstrued as only sales, but CRM is what's that relationship management database look like? What are those processes around CRM? Automation, hugely important, something we're going to focus on today in a couple of different topics. But automation, the ability to set up nurture programs, the ability to set things and forget about them for a while, knowing that they're running, rather than having to send every email, rather than having to go in and see a web form that has been submitted and then manually placing them into a segmentation list. Having that automatically happen. If you're doing that, you're probably shaking your head saying, why aren't people doing this? We say that every single day at Silverpop and in our Experience One IBM software group, why more folks aren't applying automation. And as we saw at the beginning, really only 5% of the companies are leveraging things like automation. So I'm going to pick a few here that are important because we're seeing a kind of shift in what they were to what they're becoming. Database management, for example, that can become much more automated. It's becoming less of a marketing function, more of a technology function. And I separate the two because the technology function could still be a marketing resource, but marketers are really spending less time or should be spending less time physically combing the database, physically cleaning the database. You should be leveraging tools that are relatively inexpensive based on the return that you get to keep your database clean and concise. And you should be really focusing on how you leverage that data that's in your database. If I move over to the right side, we still have classic, the classic marketers tools of mail or email, creative around graphic design. Telefunctions. Your organization might not be leveraging telefunctions. In fact, you might not even need a telefunction. But we're going to talk about the demand generation role, which is a very rapidly growing role within a marketer's world, and what that can mean from an incremental revenue perspective. And then, you can read all these different pieces. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to address any individual piece of these as we get towards the end of the webinar today. So this is pretty important to understand, whether you're a user or a CRM partner or a CRM user, the marketing automation adoption cycle. So this is from Dan Freeman, and it was the middle of 2014. This is important. So oftentimes, we're going to talk about the chasm, which is in the early adopter cycle, the second one from the left. So you have the innovators, those folks that make technology, and their friends or people that believe in their idea that pick it up. And that starts to get us into the early adopter phase. But there's a major chasm, and we're there right now with you could argue we're almost over that from a marketing automation perspective, but I'm going to argue that we're not over it from a I need to have it perspective. We're right in the middle of it from an adoption standpoint, from a usage standpoint. So it's all about improving your skills to push that. If you are doing marketing automation at this point, you're going to be in good shape. You're an early adopter. The early majority, which is where some of these marketing automation functions are now getting to, we're starting to move uphill, but the last thing you want to be in any kind of marketing technology is the late majority or a laggard. You really want to be in the first, probably the second or the third, unless there's a compelling reason to be an innovator. But what's really happening is that the first wave of users are on board. That's really a small portion of businesses, and they're using a small portion of functionality. It's less than 4% of the U.S. market. And this is staggering to me, especially those folks that have deployed any type of a CRM where you have a data structure and you obviously have prospects and customers that you're trying to continue to reach or pull in net new. Marketing automation can help with that. You just need to spend the time to develop your skills around it, marketing automation. Serious Decisions is a partner of ours, and basically what they've done, and if you've read any of their studies, they're pretty insightful, but by 2020, the marketer who doesn't understand how marketing automation should be used to drive demand generation and creation will be an endangered species, which is really talking about this demand generation rule that we're going to bring up here shortly. If you are using marketing automation in your enterprise, you're going to fit in one of those 5 blue buckets across the top, and that's really that's a revenue chart by your band. What's really interesting is that if I look at the power users down the left and I stop at 2 to 5, with the exception of the less than 50 million, which it makes sense where there might be 0, 1, or 2 to 5, even if I run this out to the enterprise or the large business, you still have 2 to 5 power users of a tool that can create incredible efficiency, keep your database clean, and allow you to interact with your clients, prospects, partners without the level of effort that it used to take. So what this means is you have a huge opportunity to step into a power user role or encourage other folks to step into a power user role, because it is proven that the more power users you have from a marketing automation perspective, helping manage relationships with your customers and prospects, you will be able to drive revenue, you'll be able to drive brand allegiance, and you'll also likely be able to do other things within your marketing organization because marketing automation itself can create efficiency. So this tremendous opportunity, even though marketing automation experience is still scarce, I'm not recommending you go out and really become a marketing automation expert and lead your organization. What we're recommending that you're doing is really build your skills and think about your career trajectory and then focus on those marketing automation skills. And we at Silverpop, an IBM company, we do all sorts of training exercises, not just on our product, but also on marketing automation and best practices in and of themselves. We provide countless white papers and learning experiences to share what we've learned, what our customers have learned, and what they're able to share without giving away competitive advantage. And we encourage you to read those or participate in those. And there are countless other organizations we'll talk about in a second that give you this opportunity to increase your skills and go find resources to help you. This is not surprising to us at Silverpop that over 40% of marketing automation platform users have less than 2 years of experience. This is really just based on we're still kind of in the early adopter phase, especially in the small to medium business space and in the enterprise space. Can you help your organization overcome these challenges? And it's a really valid question. And if you're interested in increasing your skills, helping your organization, maybe you're an owner, maybe you are a database marketer. It's really surprising that the most successful, or it's not really surprising, the most successful companies are those mid-sized companies that are still able to be nimble, move on a dime, don't have complex purchasing processes or training processes, or just can't turn the big ship fast enough. And you also have smaller businesses that are running on a limited budget that are really focused on, they're really not focused as much on the marketing aspect as they should be. Mid-sized companies are incredibly successful for their ability to quickly turn while not definitely impacting their bottom line in such a negative way. So if you're a less than $50 million business, there's often administrative challenges. Who's going to do it? Who's going to get trained? Who's going to manage this piece? Well, I already have 3 other responsibilities that include support and service. What are we going to do? It's not that difficult. If you spend a few hours educating yourself on kind of what those administrative skills or challenges that need to be overcome are, you'll be able to invest early and really reap the benefits later. And of course, over $1 billion, those large enterprises, the complexity is pretty interesting because there are always multiple products, there are multiple segments, there are multiple buyers. Who are those buying personas? The regions are oftentimes global, so now we're into language. Marketing automation platforms that are good will help knock down all of these pieces. The systems and data are probably the things that we see keep marketing organizations held back from really deploying a marketing automation platform because the data isn't trusted, they're not talking to each other, and trying to get all of that information flowing into a marketing automation platform is a monumental challenge in and of itself for most organizations. And then those top 3 pieces come into play. So, just if you think about that, if you're a mid-sized company, you probably have a greater advantage than others. So perhaps now is the time to specialize. Here are the roles that we're seeing within a marketer's world that kind of what it used to be to what's hot. Demand generation, this is probably the single fastest growing with marketing ops roles that we're seeing in the marketing space. Email specialists really have started to move into this group because it means so much more. It means taking your demand generation, by the way, is providing either net new or incremental revenue to your organization. That could be in the manner of qualified leads in a B2B perspective. It could be upsell an existing product. It could be anything that provides incremental revenue. But we're seeing it become more about a business process, more about understanding your brand story, and then organizations that are putting demand gen pieces in place are becoming more successful in driving more revenue because you're telling your story sooner. Database managers are really becoming part of the marketing operations group, and if you're a Microsoft Dynamics user or partner, this is something that's becoming very important. Dynamics CRM and the marketing automation platforms that come with Dynamics CRM, like a Core Motives, like an integrated Engage solution, both of which we offer, are now starting to be accepted. And what's next for that marketer or that CMO to understand ROI is really marketing operations. That's not just database management, but it's project management. It is project task-based management. It's all of those things that make marketing resource management a buzzword in the space today. We're also seeing kind of that segment of public relations and media planners, really moving more internally to help with that broad message. Inbound marketers and content specialists and digital marketers, those are really becoming the same thing, or they're becoming very specific. We just want to make sure that as we've educated across our organization what our marketing brand and program is, that these folks, I just listed those four, they're incredibly important because they're using different communication points to continue to improve and communicate your brand awareness out. Boutique agencies, we are seeing a shift into verticalization where you're not going to these large agencies of record, you're going to an agency that's specific to mobile, that's done it in your vertical before, as an example. So we'll move through these slides pretty quickly. Again, demand generation, generate incremental revenue for the company. Here are some of the responsibilities we're seeing to be more specific around demand gen and what you can focus on. Campaign design. So creating, they don't have to be complex, but nurture marketing. Or you happen to have a target, nurture marketing, here's a good example. I come in as an anonymous user, you have no idea who I am, or anonymous prospect. I fill out a web form and I say I'm interested in something, a product A. You should very quickly be able to put me into a nurture campaign that educates me on product A, and apply lead scoring to know when I'm ready to be contacted or ready to be moved to the next stage. That's a nurture marketing program, a very simple one, but nonetheless one that demand generation can really be responsible for because they understand how people get in the door, whether that's a B2B world or a B2C world. Net new name acquisition, same thing. We want to, in this case, we're targeting specific accounts or people for acquisition to become a customer. Campaign management and that marketing automation platform setup and execution. If you're a marketer, you're probably pretty aware with landing pages and web forms and email and scoring. There is an enormous gap in talent in that marketing automation setup and execution. Those are things that we are often asked by our clients to help them do because their organization is not set up to manage this. So if you're looking for a place to really dive in, the industry is moving towards technology to help with our marketing execution. Marketing automation is in the forefront. These four pieces, landing pages, web forms, email, and scoring, are hugely important. If you can apply your skills to your technology, you will become greater in value to your organization. And then, of course, the telefunction, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And the other one we really want to spend some time on is marketing automation, or marketing operations, excuse me. And this was what we talked about. This is process, project management. This is the technology. What are we going to buy? How is it applied? What are we going to use? Who is monitoring what that means? Best practices. Let's make sure that the folks that are managing our social channels are following the exact same brand best practices as the folks putting our email communication together. And measurement, I can't express enough how important it is to really put analytics at the forefront. Even though we don't recommend 100% learning from your own mistakes, making intelligent decisions off real facts and real numbers, and taking the time to benchmark before you do something, that's hugely important. This is one of the two, as I mentioned, fastest growing groups within marketing, and we anticipate that this will overtake that marketing automation skill set in terms of importance, because this will start to drive towards that ROI number. So marketing operations is incredibly important in terms of growing marketing as we see marketing taking on this larger share of responsibility within any business. Now, usually, this is the most technical group in the marketing department, and that really relates to the technology and the analytics side. But what this also is related to is project management and making sure things happen when they're supposed to happen, and that either a new creative project or an existing nurture, or take your pick of these individual avenues, someone needs to monitor those that doesn't have direct responsibility. We're seeing this fall into the marketing operations group, and it's usually a pretty cohesive group. What you're starting to see is that technology or IT team is slowly bleeding into the marketing department. And most of you are probably pretty technical in terms of your technology, in terms of maybe like a marketing automation platform or sending emails, because you've been forced to do this. We're seeing this move back into data. but we're seeing those folks be able to make really incredibly smart decisions on things that are broader business benefit. So, IDC really defines the marketing operations role as the ability to increase marketing efficiency and build a foundation for excellence. This is really important because no longer are you just sitting in the meeting as a marketer and what are we going to do this week, or where are we going to spend our money from an ad perspective? These are well thought out budgets. You are really planning your year. You're really planning your brand. And by reinforcing marketing with processes, technology, metrics, and best practices like IDC defines here, you're able to do that during the planning process. So some of the core responsibilities, like we've talked about, but as we move them into the business process side, business process and definition, what does that mean? That's oftentimes working with sales and the IT team to define what these processes and definitions are, because you're going to use, like you see at the bottom, the tool selection, those individual tools to help with your processes. Probably the single hardest thing that marketing ops and marketers in general struggle with is the same thing that sales struggles with. How do we get aligned? How do we have mutually beneficial goals? How do we define things so everyone's on the same page? And what does marketing expect from sales, and what does sales expect from marketing? The organizations that are doing really well oftentimes have this alignment pretty well in place. That doesn't mean it's always perfect. The organizations that struggle are the ones where they just kind of shake hands and say hi to each other, but they each go off and do their own thing and don't have a solid plan defined by a process. Marketing ops is really stepping in and helping to create that alignment through a lot of these pieces. CRM integration is pretty important. I'm assuming most of you are Microsoft Dynamics CRM users or partners. There are tons of tools out there. The most important thing is the data. We have a tool, Core Motives, which lives in Microsoft Dynamics CRM. That data is right there. You've already spent all your time and effort building your data integrations, so Dynamics CRM is likely your system of record or very, very close to it. It's important that your CRM data be accessible easily by that marketing team. Marketing ops usually owns portions of this, and they're oftentimes the liaison to MIS or IT around additional integrations, tool selection, and project rollout. We talked a little bit about data. I don't want to spend too much more time on this, but it is a place where you can make a name for yourself relatively quickly, especially if you're able to get into the analytics space. Product marketing, certainly a role that we see as important, becoming more important because of the competitive intelligence aspects and the need to understand your competitor, but also the persona development. And if you've ever heard me speak before, personas are incredibly important. And if you do nothing else, define your buying personas. There are usually 3 to 5 buying personas in your organization. Spend time defining those and work off of those for everything else that you do. Product marketing should be able to help with this. Marketing communications, again, another role that we've seen and has persisted for quite some time. Marketing services, same side of the house. We do see more boutique agency involvement in this aspect around creative and graphic design and print production, even into event services from webinars to conferences. So what are your specialties? I think we totally believe, especially for you to build your career and figure out what's next in that marketing suite for you, you need to be an expert in something. So there are plenty of resources that you can tap into to decide, what's important. Some of the things we might have talked about today, ring a bell with you. I'm not going to go through each one of these, but we would encourage you to really participate in, again, forums or groups like LinkedIn, or you could become content marketing certified, or you could go to the Marketing Prof certification course. And there are groups like CMO Essentials by Aberdeen that if you're not, you don't have to be a paying subscriber. If you just go sign up and start reading some of the material, you're certainly going to find something that applies to you, that interests you, or that can help your organization. Get certified. Oftentimes that's certifications kind of get eye rolls. We offer certifications at Silverpop around our products, and with that becomes comes a lot of access to our best practices. So we would certainly encourage, if you're a Silverpop user, engage your core motives, that you talk to those folks. If not, we're happy to talk to you about what these programs mean. And then, of course, you can also talk about pragmatic marketing certification, or AMA's PCM certification, things that really make you more well-rounded. And if you fancy a move to like an enterprise, these are certifications that can move you in, but it's not just a check the box. It is really a best practice. It's not learning by trial and error. It's learning from folks that have already either made those mistakes or have really awesome experiences to share. This is probably one of my favorite things to recommend to folks. Speak at conferences. I love to speak at conferences. I love to share success stories around our clients. And it's really fun, and it engages you with your audience, not just on the stage prep level, but it also engages you one-on-one, because folks want to come talk to you when you speak about them. So, for example, at Silverpop, we have an annual event called Amplify, and we love for our customers to come speak because they're telling their story. And it also gives them a chance to build their personal brand. Usually speakers at these events, they pay for your entry fee to the event and perhaps more. Usually professional speakers are the ones that get their travel and the T&E comp or covered. But it doesn't have to be a 5,000-person event. You can speak at a local AMA chapter, for example. 2015 is right around the corner. Approach those vendors, partners, and conference planners that you know, and be willing to put yourself out there and talk about things that you're passionate about. During Amplify, we take a couple different avenues. So maybe you're not comfortable speaking on stage in front of a couple hundred folks or 50 folks or a couple thousand folks. Maybe you just want to participate in a peer discussion. Roundtables are probably the single best way to share information at conferences that you attend than any other mechanism for communication, because you're hearing peer stories and you're seeing body language and you know when people are telling you something that they're really excited about. I would encourage, and I always encourage folks that I work with to attend roundtables, because you can ask pointed questions and you're bound to have one of the 3, 4, or 5 people sitting on that panel that understands your particular question really in depth and can provide you a valuable answer. And I'm pretty sure that most of the folks on the call, if you're interested in marketing, it's not just because you're interested in marketing automation. So I'm sure you have something really fun and exciting to share with your peers. Things that you can do at work to increase your brand, but also to increase kind of the overall intelligence and experiences. Have a brown bag lunch, for example. One of the things that I certainly recommend, and I know Ellen Valentine, who helped put this presentation together, and she's an evangelist for Silverpop. If you ever get a chance to hear Ellen speak about marketers, the plight of a marketer, and also Dave Walter and Lauren Roberts, our 3 evangelists, this is one of the things they're going to tell you that's critically important. Become a reader. Whether those are blogs, forums, white papers, books, become a reader. There are tons of pieces of content that are incredibly focused on what's important to you. If you happen to look at, if you're looking at this slide at our Experience One group, we put out all sorts of different white papers, and I'm going to walk through one here in a moment, that are just very pointed. You can also look at different books. So again, become a reader. If you don't think you have time, set aside time to do this. You're really not only helping yourself, you're going to help your organization. Writing's important. I'm not going to spend much time. I'm running a little bit long here, but being able to put your thoughts to paper and be convincing is a really incredible skill. Blogging is one of the most recognized ways to increase a brand, and participating in forums. So I would encourage you to really think about writing. And here's an example of a white paper that we recently released from Silverpop. It's our email marketing benchmark study. And really this serves as 2 purposes. One, you can get incredible information from a number of sources, including our website, around white papers. But you can also learn, hey, how are we doing as an organization? So I'm going to move to a slide that talks about unique open rates and when they're open. And this is just a small section of what's included in this white paper. But you'll notice very quickly those boxes that are bordered in red. What are the most successful open rates? Those are the ones that are sent from a marketing automation platform that are automated by nature, of course, using the definition within my description. And within that top quartile, if I look at the top left, almost 50%, 45% automated sends are open. So now let's, and those are just sends when I sign up for a white paper, as an example. Now let's think about a transactional message. I just bought something from your organization. If I look at the exact same rate, transactional, which is automated, the top quartile, 65% of my messages are open. So I would encourage you, if you're heavily dependent on email marketing, which most organizations are from a marketing automation perspective, to download our benchmark study. Find out where you stack up. If you're unable to know, that means you really need to consider marketing automation platforms, because these metrics are important to know if I'm doing something correctly. And this, of course, these metrics can extend into all sorts of things that marketers can now measure. Same thing applies to click-through rates. We talked a little bit about the funnel. Think about your own personal funnel. Don't be afraid to come to your boss or your CMO, or maybe you are the CMO, and to really challenge the sales team to make sure they understand the invisible funnel, those activities that are occurring before you're even known, those anonymous buyers. Work with sales to really define your funnel and the metrics you expect within each funnel step. So I'm going to leave you with a Seth Godin quote here, that marketing used to be what you say. Now marketing is what you do, what you make, and how you act. The choices you make when you are sure no one is looking. And I want to spend some time just on the last sentence, the choices you make when you are sure no one is looking. Another term for this is the window shopper. And I'm going to use the classic example of shopping for something in a retail consumer perspective. We've all done it. And every single one of us has gone online and read reviews and done pricing research, and we're 56 or 57% done with our buying cycle before we go talk to anyone. The things you're doing when you perceive no one to be looking are what marketers are most interested in now. Those are the digital breadcrumbs, these behaviors that you're leaving behind. And I want to share with you why this is so critical. If you have a marketing automation platform that can pull together anonymous behavior like either one of our platforms can, Engage or Core Motives, when someone identifies themselves. So here's the scenario. I've spent a bunch of time looking at product A on someone's website, but I've never given my name. Now, of course, they've dropped a cookie, they've time-stamped and captured a whole bunch of information about my web interactions. Now I decide I'm interested, so I fill out something online, or I respond to a web form that gives them my name and my email address. And lo and behold, all this anonymous information now pulls forward to me because of the cookie on my desktop. Those things I did that no one was aware of, that now a lead scoring mechanism can measure, and then a salesperson can take action on, or an automated sales process, or personalized content can occur because of it, is immeasurable in the terms of moving it through the sales cycle. So as we talk about this, think about what you're doing. Think about how your buyers behave before you know who they are, and think about as a marketer how you act and what you make and what you need to capture to help sales win, and you'll be able to be more successful. And that also goes for your own personal marketing kind of trajectory and career. So, really in summary, there are a bunch of different pieces to the puzzle from a marketing platform. I'm not going to go through each one of these. Both of our platforms, Core Motives and Engage, cover front to back marketing automation from a functionality perspective. Please feel free to visit us at silverpop.com or any of these addresses that we have here. We're active on Twitter. And really, think about what's important to you. Know that marketing automation is still in its infancy. If you're an early adopter and you already feel successful, that's incredibly great. Keep pushing hard, drive revenue. If you're unsure where you want to go or what you want to do, or you're trying to make a decision for your organization, make it simple. decide 2 or 3 things within those 7 pillars that we talked about that you need to focus on. Find that marketing automation platform. Become an expert. Don't become okay in 7 pillars. Become an expert in 2. You'll find more success. So with that, I want to spend the last 10 minutes fielding questions if there are any, and I certainly appreciate everyone taking time today to hang with us for the last 15 minutes and talk a little bit about the future of marketing automation, the future of a marketer, and what you can do in 2015 to not only help your own company, but help yourself personally.
All right, thanks, Dan. And yeah, I would second that. We would love to hear what some of your own organization's challenges are, or if you're perhaps a Microsoft partner, what some of the challenges you're working to help your clients with these days, and what they're really working to improve on, or what you think they should be improving on. I would love to discuss that further as well. You can enter your questions in the Q&A box that you see to the right of the slides right now. Dan, one question. Are there any other trends in marketing organizations from a larger scale?
Sure. You know, I think, Jason, probably the largest trend that we're seeing is folks are really spending a lot of time trying to understand the data that they have. And that usually means that marketers have to understand how to work with technology. The good news is that we know technologists and marketers have worked together better than typically sales and technology folks have. So I think that it's pretty important that, well, not important, but the most important trend that we're seeing is that folks are working together as groups, and really, you know, the folks that are leading that scenario are knocking down those barriers and cross-pollinating across their business groups to make sure they get their largest bang for their investment, but even before their investment, make the right decision for things like, you know, data supplementation, for things like, do we move to an SMS platform, for things like, what happens when we need to be ready to be personalized content, geolocation specific, really thinking about, you know, 2-3 years down the line, especially location-based marketing and personalization, which is here right now, but most organizations aren't prepared to act on it. Building that roadmap, smart organizations are doing that now.
All right. Another question that came in: how well are mid-market manufacturing companies, companies approximately between 50 and 250 million dollars, adopting holistic approaches and a holistic approach to sales and marketing?
Sure. So it's a great question. I love these that are focused on verticals. I spent a good bit of time deploying CRM to manufacturing clients prior to joining IBM Silverpop. It really comes down to, because I often add, especially within the manufacturing scenario, how is product hitting market? So are you working through, is this really B2B to C? Are you working through a partner channel or a reseller channel? What we're seeing is those manufacturers that can tightly control the buying cycle between sales and marketing, that product education, new product education, we're seeing them be very successful, but being very rifle shot focused on what they're trying to accomplish. Because there's really 2 avenues from my perspective that manufacturers need to focus on when we think about marketing automation. It's your end consumer, and by and large, almost all manufacturers are selling through some other channel, or channels more than likely. How are you able to capture intelligence around your other channels that you don't implicitly own? I think that's the biggest question that we had, Chris, in terms of how do you sell. And maybe if you could just respond in the QA, if you're focused really more on the you know, like a reseller or a wholesaler retail type environment. I mean, are you if you're on the manufacturing side, it's really those 2 avenues. How do you control, and what are you able to control from a brand perspective? But those organizations that have adopted both and are able to, even if they can't force sales cycle on their not resellers, but the retailers, if they can provide them with a unified approach to sales and marketing when they recruit or review partnership, the metrics that you can provide from a sales perspective back into marketing ROI are unbelievable if you've effectively deployed your marketing automation platform. And one last piece on that, it's going to ultimately come down to the leadership and the belief that it's important. The best technology, as everyone knows, can't save a leader that's not willing to invest or invest their own time, not just money. That's incredibly important. The organizations where sales and marketing executives see it as a shared plan, especially in, this kind of mid-market manufacturing scenario that you're asking about, Chris, it's really important.
All right, and one last question here that I see in the queue. For a company using Dynamics CRM, what do you see happening around usage and adoption for marketing automation?
We are seeing, I'm going to start a little bit broader. For starters, just in our experience, because we also deploy to other or integrate with other CRM platforms with our Engage product. We're seeing organizations that have deployed a CRM be more ready to deploy marketing automation, mostly because of the data. But we're seeing faster than any other CRM deployment group, the Microsoft community is moving much faster, regardless of what you'll see from the numbers of like a Salesforce.com, because that data, especially with the core motives, your ability to purchase a product that sits in CRM, behaves the way you want to, and really it's successful because of the the small, medium, mid-market, and large businesses that are already on CRM, that are already pushing forward with their roadmap. Whereas, we see them being incrementally more successful versus, let's say, a Salesforce.com deployment where they really have to figure out how does exact target or responses work. And it's separate from my Salesforce.com deployment. And that's a lot of training, and now I have to be an expert on something else, just the way I navigate. So we've seen, because of the CRM platform, its ability to be expanded upon and really deployed quickly. We're seeing the pickup on marketing automation platforms be really quick, faster than I had seen in the past.
All right. We have actually a follow-up to the previous question about mid-market manufacturing company adoption. And the question is, where are these executives that you were talking about going for information? Okay,
so I'm going to assume that we're talking about where do I go get information to make decisions, and I'm going to assume that, Chris, you might mean this separately, like where do I go, or what, as an executive, what kind of information am I relying on? So it's really back to ROI, and it's also working around, some executives already obviously have relationships to specific platforms that they bring forward. I think the most important thing that we're seeing any executive do is really rely on the folks that are going to be using the technology to, if we think about it from a purchase perspective, to go find something that works for their business. If we think about it from an ROI, or how are we doing from a process standpoint, right now, the majority of the time it's a finger in the wind type scenario with, how are we doing in its opinion. We're not seeing mid-market companies as much as I would like to see them making decisions based on pure fact. That information, the data itself, to make intelligent decisions needs to come from a number of areas. Usually the problem is the process isn't defined, so we don't know that step 1 to step 2 should be, a 20% return. We didn't know the benchmark. So the information is almost tangential or opinion at this point. The folks that are successful deploying this, they are deploying a marketing automation platform with a CRM, with a back-end data warehouse, spent the time up front to benchmark where they were. They figured out what metrics were important to them to make decisions off of. So those executives would state, here's our stated goal, here are the requirements we need to make decisions. They're pretty typical and standard.
All right. Dan, I think we're at the end of our question queue here.
Okay. Yep.
Great. And appreciate the questions, everyone. We will wrap it up there. The session has been recorded, and we'll be making it available very soon. Dan, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks, Jason. We appreciate it. And I do want to share, everyone, there's a ton of great content on Microsoft Dynamics World. Spend some time out there. You obviously participate because you at least get the emails, but you can educate yourself across all things Microsoft there. I know I spend time there, and I'm not saying that just because I'm here presenting on a webinar. The content's incredible around CRM and soon to be marketing. So thank you, Jason.
All right, thanks for that. Well, with that, we will conclude the session. Thanks and have a great day.